Good morning. Good morning. Am I audible? Am I visible? Yes. Okay. I'm sorry for the delay. We had a technical glitch which we just resolved. So I'm extremely sorry for the 9 minutes we have started late. But this is the last time we do it. Thereafter, we will not be late ever. Okay. Good morning. So I'm waiting for you to join in. And yes, I'm good, Simran. I hope all of you are good. Some of you have met. Some of you have not met. Yes, hi, Samista. Hi, Samita. Good to see you after Ancient Medieval. Aditya, I'll tell you the agenda of the day. Agenda of the day is in front of you. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. We start a very important journey today. Good morning. I'll wait for 1 minute because the session was not started on time. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So none of you have missed nothing. Just that there was a technical glitch for which you were not able to start on time. Now we are exactly on time. Not an issue. As of right now, Aditya, no. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We'll give it a minute. Do not post in the doubt section, post it here only. Sai, I have no idea about that. If ethics class is going to happen or not, I don't know. Post in the chat section so that I can see it straightforward. Hi, Vishnu. Well, Didi, good to see you also. Good morning, Nirmala. Good morning, Jaswant. Okay. So, before I start, very good morning to you. I'm sorry we started 5-6 minutes late, but we've got that resolved. Now, before I start, how many of you have never seen me? I know some of you by name, but how many of you have never seen me? Yes, Vishnu, I remember. This is the first time you are seeing me. Manoj, you have never seen me. Benita is saying, I know you, sir. Sir, me, this is my first class. Yamya, very good. Ritu, first class. Vaishali saying, raising the hand. Avni, art and culture done. Hi, sir, this is my first class. Very good. Polu. Thereafter, only in DNA. Very good, Ritu. Thereafter, in webinar, I saw. Very good. I know you, first class, Megha. I know, sir. It's my first class, Madhuri. Okay. Hindu Nurses, third time CA. Okay, so the point is, some of you have seen me, some of you haven't seen me, and some of you have seen me either CNA or in webinars. And the point is that welcome to the class, welcome to our very long journey called Modern India. And for the people who don't know me, for the people who know me, this is a repetition. For the people who don't know me, because you have to remember at least my name, you should know that I am Abhishek Mishra. And what I do here is that I teach history. When it comes to history, ancient, medieval, art and culture, world history, all batches are with me only. Somehow you will stumble around and come to my class for sure. And when it comes to modern India, certain batches are with me. Now this batch, which is weekend and the evening, you get an opportunity to revise also if you want to. The evening batch, which is coming on 9th November, will also start with me. So I take 4 and Rohit sir takes 3. The point is, next two batches, the last 2 batches is with me. Now, what gives me the right to teach you modern India? That's a very good question, very important question. And the reason is that I've been doing this for now close to a decade. So my BA honors is in history from Sri Venkateswara College, Delhi University. Then I did my master's in history again from St. Stephen's College. Then I did my MPhil from Department of History. There my specialization is in modern India itself. And basically my work is on the Portuguese and the British, and specifically the Western Coast and Bombay and Goa, and colonial administrative comparative study it is called. Thereafter, I'm doing my PhD right now, again on the colonial bureaucracy. So I'm basically an administrative historian, but I have understanding of labor, economic, social, and gendered history also. And whilst doing all of this, I was also the gold medalist and university topper throughout, BA, honors, be it masters, be it MPhil. So I've been doing this for close to 10 years. History, now 12 years in that sense. But yes, my specialization is in history generally because I know American, world, Chinese, Japanese, Indian, whatever history you want. This is the first point. Second is, before I joined here, I was teaching in Delhi University for 6 years as an assistant professor. So I taught maybe in colleges which you belong to, which is, for example, last appointment was Hindu College, before that LSR, then before that Kamla Nehru. I taught in Satyavati, I taught in CVS, multiple colleges, 6 to 7 colleges in Delhi University in 6 years. I used to love to teach in that zone. And then I joined here because whilst teaching there, I always used to mentor students for UPSC. So I thought, why not do it full time? So when it comes to my specialization, when it comes to my expertise in this area, you don't have to worry. And when I say that you need to trust me, you really need to trust me, because there are certain books which give you wrong information. There's a lot of misinformation on the internet also. So you have to make sure that you take the PPTs and what I'm teaching in class in a right stride and take it forward. Now, whilst doing all of this, the first point you need to know is that when it comes to history, there is a misconception. And the misconception is, which a lot of you would have seen in ancient, medieval, and modern, which I've tried to remove, is that everything is factual. That is technically not true. And the problem with students is that they run away from history or look at history in the sense that how will I manage? Don't worry about ancient, medieval art and culture, but don't worry about modern India also. Because when we talk about modern India, it is a very beautiful, one interconnected story if you understand it in that way. So first things first, now you know me who I am, for the students who did not know who I am. Second is the fact that there are no right and wrong answers in the class, which is that I'm going to ask you questions. Feel free to interact with me. Second is, from time to time, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand or say yes. More importantly, say yes, which is that, are you following me? Is this making sense? You have to say yes or no. And if it's no, then I'll repeat that topic. And last but not the least is, I am not asking you to make running notes. I am not asking you to make running notes as you're in class, because what will happen is then you will not concentrate on the screen and what I'm teaching. So you just have to concentrate. Thereafter, I will now discuss with you what is the syllabus, what is the trend, what are the books, and thereafter we'll start our first theme, which is called the Advent of Europeans. And rather than first, we'll do Mughal decline, and then we will do Advent of Europeans. This is the basic agenda for today. And by the end of the day, we'll be discussing regional dynasties. So our basic engagement is going to be like this only. Today will be about creating the context. Next Saturday, Sunday, we'll be basically covering a very important theme, which is the expansion of British Raj in India, which is Carnatic Wars, Mysore, Maratha, Sikh. And thereafter, by next to next week, we will be in the zone wherein we'll be talking about consolidation of the Raj. So, Shreyas, you should know that this video is recorded. You have access to this recorded video after we have stopped the stream also. Second is, I am writing notes for you. So the annotated PPT which will be generated after this session should be enough for you to basically note them down. What if you have to make notes? Then the point is, you should not be concentrating on the notes rather than actually concentrate on me. Because what students do is that, I have seen it in colleges also, you keep your head down, then you make this video into a radio. That I don't want. So I want your concentration in class, and that is the most important thing. So Vishwajit, don't have to worry about that. You'll find me in ancient, medieval, and in world history, not in that, but that doesn't matter. Now, can we start our discussion for today? You know me now. You know the concept, what we are going to do. Then I will introduce history to you, and then we can start our journey in that sense. I want everybody's participation. I'm not going to sit there like this is some form of pramachan. I want an interactive class, and that is what the least I am asking from you to do, which is to interact, which is to ask me questions. And more than that, when I'm asking you yes or no, be prompt in doing that. Because If I know you are following, I can then move the class in a certain pace in that sense. Okay. I'm from batch 2, subject modern was not completed in June, July session according to my table. It should be ethics governance. Abhinav, see, I don't know if ethics and was scheduled and or not. Will you be teach medieval? Yes, I teach ancient medieval art and culture and world history, everything. When I'm saying that I know that it could be ethics and governance, it did not happen or not happening, I am wrong, not the right person to ask this. I am here teaching my subject. If that is not happening, I'll get it resolved. I'll tell you about it. I'll tell you about it before we start the section session, part B. Now, as you know, as today is planned like this: 10 to 1, then 2 to 5, and then 5:30 to 8. So please plan your day accordingly. Your lunch break is going to be 1 to 2, and then 5 to 5:30 is going to again be a break wherein you can have some tea or an evening break in that sense. So I'm not an ethics teacher. For anybody who thinks I'm teaching ethics, no, I'm a history teacher. So please, no ethics, history, and most important concept. I know it could be that you would have ethics. I'll get it resolved. Don't worry about that. I'll get it resolved. But give me time. Right now, I'm standing in front of you. I can't talk to anybody in the studio. I'll get it resolved once I give you a break. Don't worry about that. Right? Can we start, everybody? See, batch 4, batch 5, I don't know Vishwajit. I just teach. I'll tell you about my book also. Chinmay, I'll tell you about the book. I come here, I've been told I have to teach modern India. So let's do that. Okay. Well, Gulam, equally privileged. Okay. Now, let's talk about history and let's try to understand history, what it is, and your burning questions about history in that sense. So, when we talk about history for UPSC, there are multiple subjects which come under it. First is ancient, then medieval, then modern, then art and culture, thereafter world history, and post independence. What you start with me today is this journey. Some of you have already completed ancient, medieval, and art and culture with me, and eventually you'll do world history with me. Now, when we talk about these six components have their own purpose. They have their own purpose and their own demands because they're not constantly coming in the examination throughout the whole 3 stages. See, ancient medieval is, except for this year, PT specific. This year, UPSC played a game in GS paper 1. But when I will teach you ancient medieval and then I'll teach you art and culture, and when we discuss GS paper 1, I will discuss what was the basic googly which was thrown. So ancient medieval is very purely PT because in the examination you will get 5 to 10 questions out of ancient medieval. Modern and art and culture are PT plus mains. And world history and post independence are only mains. So basically, if you look at it, every part of history has a separate demand, has a separate purpose. PT means prelims examination. Prelims, yes. So the problem is that you can't have a very, what we call a simplistic approach over history, that, for example, for polity or for geography, there's a type of constant nature that GS paper 2 and PT, both. The whole syllabus is relevant for everything. But here it's a little bit complicated. And therefore, the PT section, in the PT section, you have to have factual knowledge, but more and more you also need to have conceptual clarity. In the mains portion, you only need to have conceptual clarity and have the ability to be having descriptive understanding. Descriptive means because you have to do answer writing, you have to have a descriptive understanding. PT means prelims examination. Thereafter, the modern and art and culture section, here it's a totally different story. Here you need factual also, here you need conceptual also, and here you need descriptive also. So not today, but next week when we meet, I will do previous year questions with you also. I will do mains answer writing with you also. So everything related to history will be covered. So don't have to worry about that. There's a process and there's a certain way in which we will move forward, and that I have to explain to you how. So first things first, now what you start with me is modern India. And therefore, you need to understand that modern India is a very comprehensive part of your syllabus, and you need to know both factual knowledge, but more than that, conceptual clarity and descriptive understanding needs to be there, because that is what is considered the most important skill which you need for the examination. So this is what is history for you and the landscape. And we are starting modern India and post independence in this batch. And when we start today, we are going to cover the history from early modern, which is from 1700 onwards till 1947. Post independence is after we got independence. What is the concept? So how many questions asked? I'll tell you, Gaurav. I'm coming to that. Ancient medieval, modern art and culture, world history. Now, first things first, Gaurav, see, when you start a journey, what you are exhibiting is called English utilitarianism. And that is something which the British taught us. And you are also asking me, is that what is the purpose? Karna chahiye, nahi karna chahiye? Should I do it or not? How many questions? That question, how many questions, is basically irrelevant at this point of time. But just to be very, very clear, ancient and medieval, in PT you will get 5 to 10 questions. In prelims examination you will get 5 to 10 questions. From modern India, you will again get 5 to 8 questions in prelims examination, and mains examination you can get 3 to 5 questions. From art and culture, again we have another set of 5 to 3, not 5 but 3 to 5 questions in the PT. And this time there were 4 questions from art and culture in mains. And world history you can get 1, post independence you can get 1, mains. So there is nobody who has cleared this examination by ignoring history. Yes, Nidhi, evening batch is also with me. I have not attended ancient medieval, so will it be tough? No, Sidhu. This is an independent story. You just have to keep your mind open. Don't have to worry. As it is in your syllabus, if you've seen your year-long timetable, your modern comes first, then ancient medieval. So don't worry, it's designed like that only. What I mean to say very simply, that sure, Akash, the point is there is nobody who has cleared this examination by leaving history, because there are multiple people, there will be multiple stories, there will be multiple videos which you will find on YouTube, which will say don't need to do history, you can leave this, you can leave that, did that. Don't go by that. Those people are asking you to commit suicide basically, and I don't want you to commit suicide. So what I want you to do is very simply concentrate with me, and you will basically become a specialist by the time you come, because I teach from NCRT level till the point I go till optional and sometimes academic level. So I'm modulating in the class as per the need of the examination. So don't have to worry in that sense also. So again, Yamya, that is the way we go about it, because of the fact that modern plays a very important role, has to be done first, and it will allow you to understand the post independence and then also other aspects also. For some of you, it is the other way around. Who have joined me previously, for them, ancient medieval is already done. For I think 50%, 60% of the class, ancient medieval art and culture is already done. And this is the second world history batch. So for some of you who's starting, it could be first. So it's not constant. But I will not presume anything. I will teach from the level where you understand. So if we understand this, can we look at the syllabus? Can we look at the PT syllabus? Yes? Okay. Now, when we look at the prelims examination, the UPSC has always been like this and does it always, which is that to be vague as possible. So in the PT, they have just written Indian national movement and history of India. Now, history of India means ancient medieval art and culture. Indian national movement basically is referring to the modern India section. Can anybody tell me where does the Indian national movement start? Anybody? What year do we believe that the Indian national movement has started? Very good, very good. Gokul, Ankit, very good. Aditya, very good. Vishwajit, very good. Bhavna, you're 2 years off. Shiva, a little bit before, not after 1915. 1885. The formation of the Indian National Congress is considered the beginning of the Indian national movement. The students who are writing 1857, the problem with 1857 is it is not a national movement. It was a restorative rebellion, which I will tell you why, and we'll discuss it. What are the contours and what are the aspects related to there, and what you need to understand. There's a misconception about that. We will try to change that also for you. So UPSC, being UPSC, always does this, has vague statements and vague things. However, if I talk about the trend, as I told you that there will be a trend analysis. The national movement, which is the Indian national movement for mains GS paper 1, substantially 30 to 40, 45, 50 marks is coming. And nobody really needs to convince you to study modern India because it is important. And modern India again gives you 5 to 10 questions, which is close to 20 25 marks, rather than 20 24 marks, which is again very significant for the examination. History, as it is a fundamental subject. There are 4 pillars of UPSC: history, geography, polity, and economics. Thereafter, everything else is a subsidiary which is holding these pillars. But as you can see, out of these 4 pillars, you can't leave history, because you're then leaving straightforward 20 questions, 20 25 questions. That nobody can do. Now, let's see how we will cover what we have to cover. Now, I'm basically telling you what is our module breakage and how we move forward. And thereafter, I will discuss the books with you, what to read. See, this is your basic module, what we call as breakage. First is advent of Europeans, and second is also advent of Europeans plus decline of Mughals. But I'll reverse it. I'll do decline of Mughals first, then advent. Then we have regional kingdoms, which are basically successor states, rebel states. Then we'll talk about expansion. Expansion takes 2.5 classes because it's heavy, which is Carnatic War, the Mysore, the Maratha, the Sikh, and thereafter we also go into subsidiary alliance and doctrine of lapse. Once we've covered this and the first initial constitutional history, which is basically related to the first acts which are there, regulating act, the charter acts, we will also cover the police, ICS, and the other aspects related to the consolidation of the Raj. We'll talk about the judiciary, we'll talk about the ICS, we'll talk about the police, we'll talk about, I'll give you my article for the police, my research is in the police itself, and then we will move away from that and go into the most interesting section, which is economic policy. So we'll talk about land revenue settlements, deindustrialization, commercialization, drain of wealth, and how foreign trade changed for us. Once we are established that, we will then again go into constitutional history and understand education policy, where we'll understand the ideologies of the Raj, utilitarians, orientalists, the concept of evangelicalists, what are they? Once we have covered that, then see, 3 modules are heavy. And if you can survive these 3 modules, then the story is very easy, which is social justice reform movement here, this, and this. These are very factual. Constitutional development means how the British East India Company structure was changed. We'll talk about that. These 3 are the factual modules, wherein you have the organization founder. I'll tell you what to do with this. Thereafter, 1857, we'll also do previous year paper analysis. Then the modules are nothing but the whole of what we call as the national movement. We'll start with the pre-INC associations. We'll talk about INC, moderate, extremist. Thereafter, what we call as the Swadeshi movement. Then we'll talk about how Gandhi comes in. And then after Gandhi, we will go into the way we had certain movements which gave us independence. So you can see I'm covering everything. There's no issues with regards to that. You just have to make sure that you have to, and I'm giving you a disclaimer right now itself, these 2 modules here and these 3 modules here, what students do is that they judge history from these 5 modules. But I can guarantee to you that the questions come from this side rather than this side. So what you have to do is, it will seem heavy, it is heavy, but I'll try to make it as logical as possible. And once you have triumphed this first 10, then you will start to enjoy it properly. And if you know me, you would know that I basically teach through timelines. So I'll give you multiple timelines, I'll give you multiple ways of flowcharts and understandings and structures, so that you can understand in a logical way also. I'm not a descriptive person. I don't like to basically give you a monologue and a proper descriptive understanding, note down the points. I'm not like that. I rather want you to have a understanding. If you can understand, then you never have to learn. That is the basic point. So these are the modules which we are going to cover. This is not of your problem, it is my problem how we cover them. We'll make sure that by the 21st, and after this there are two modules for post independence. When I come to that, I'll discuss two modules. When we discuss linguistic reorganization, princely state integration, we'll talk about regional inequality, we'll talk about the wars, and we'll also talk about the challenges after we got independence, which will separate issue altogether in that way. So don't have to worry about this. Now comes the $1,000,000 question, which is, what about the books? What about the books? Now, these two are in a way important. These are called the new NCRT. This is 8th class and 12th class, 12th class part 3. These two are very important for modern India. I'm not asking you to learn them. I'm just asking you to read them. Thereafter, this is the NCRT which you have to cover. Now, the old NCRT, you would have heard people talking about the 1986 NCRT. That NCRT was basically republished by Bipin Chandra in the form of this book, which is called History of Modern India. However, till this point, it is mandatory. But I will tell you one thing very straightforward. My PPTs are not made out of 1, 2, or 3, but 7 to 8 different sources. So when you read the PPT should automatically be enough. You can keep the PPT as the anchor and study around it. So the PPT plus new NCRT is a must. In that sense. Thereafter, when it comes to Bipin Chandra, this book is on your Shraddha, which is that on how much you want to read. Thereafter, there used to be only one alternative to this book, which is Spectrum. This used to be the only alternative. However, in the past 4-5 months, or rather in the past 1 year, I had been writing a book, and that book is now available. But the book orientation is a little bit different, but actually is very useful for UPSC aspirants. See, there's an examination which is called UGC NET. If you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, it's basically an examination, the national eligibility test. You have to clear it to become an assistant professor. So in that, you have history as a subject. And yes, NET JRF, you would know. So basically UGC NET is the name of the examination. And if you write UGC NET history, you will get a book. Do you want to see the book? I have it with me today. You want to see the book? Book name. I'm giving you the book name. Want to see the book? Yes. Give me 1 second. Okay. Give me 1 second. So this is the book. It's called NTA UGC NET History. It's by Pearson Publications. And very simply, you write Abhishek Mishra, or the co-author with me is my wife, Shubhangini Priya. And see, the advantage of buying this book is only one thing. I'll tell you why. The advantage of this book, yes, it is available on Amazon. And see, this is your and my arrangement. Byju's is not involved with this. Amazon or Flipkart, I would encourage you to go to any of them. If you can just Google it, you will get a link. I'll make it public also. On Amazon, you'll find it. Right now it is available on a very heavy discount also. It's called paper 2. Paper 2 is there are 2 papers in UGC net. So Amazon, you will find this book. Now I'll tell you why it is important. See, spectrum, does it have ancient and medieval? Does it have ancient medieval? No. But when you buy this book, it will have ancient, medieval, modern, all 3 together. So basically, it should solve your problem vis-a-vis 3 things. You don't have to read R.S. Sharma, you don't have to read what we call as Bipin Chandra, and you don't have to read what we call as the Satish Chandra. You can just read this one book and you get everywhere. You have to buy it. It is on, no, the PDF format is not available. You have to buy it. That's a separate issue altogether. I am not encouraging you to do it, but I'm giving you an alternative. This Spectrum is one book which you can read, but there is also one more alternative. I got the book on Amazon. And so you can just send the link to me in the chat section. Just push it. Yes. Okay. I'm making it public. Okay. Yeah. So totally your call. Totally your call. But I have written it from a perspective that a UPSC aspirant would find it very useful. The questions and the previous year questions may be not useful for you because that is UGC net history. But the chapters in themselves are complete and you can easily cover the whole syllabus from this book itself. So I am saying PPT plus NCRT is a must. PPT plus NCRT is a must. If you buy the book, you don't even need to read the NCRT. But that's a separate issue altogether. My basic urge to you is, because this we need to establish right now. My basic urge to you is that PPT you cannot ignore, irrespective of whatever you're reading. Plus that I would like you to go through the NCRT ones. Irrespective of anything, I would like you to go through the NCRT because UPSC claims that they ask questions from the NCRT. This is technically not true, but that is their claim. Thereafter, the third thing is your call. Be it Bipin Chandra, be it Spectrum or my book, it is totally your call. I leave it to you in that sense. If you find it useful, you can buy it. If you don't want to buy it, totally your call. I'm not asking you to buy it mandatorily. It is totally your call. You want to do it or not. Minimum, you have to cover PPT and NCRT. Prateek, if you're covering PPT and NCRT, Spectrum also basically you don't need, because everything in this, the aspect related to Spectrum is done in a better way in the PPT itself. So trust me, once you've covered the PPT NCRT, once you've covered the PPT with me, you will automatically say to me, so that we actually don't need Spectrum. So Bipin Chandra, Spectrum, whatever it is totally on your comfort level. The only thing is Spectrum is little bit more comprehensive than Bipin Chandra. The problem with Bipin Chandra is that basically it is very shallow because it's an old NCRT. It's an old NCRT. That is the problem. Bipin Chandra has not written from UPSC perspective. That is the biggest issue. On the other hand, Spectrum has been written from a UPSC perspective. My book has been written from a UPSC perspective. So totally your call. Now, if the syllabus, the basics of what we have to do, the modules and the books is clear, I would like to start the teaching part now. We've created the context now quite a lot. I want to now start teaching. We've created the context. Can we do that? Are we all clear with regards to these issues? I want everybody's assertion. Anybody has any issue in understanding the syllabus, what it is, what book you have to refer, who am I? I'm not teaching ethics, I'm teaching history. Are there any issues in this? Syllabus, Yamya, you don't have to worry. Syllabus is vague. It is open-ended. So don't have to worry in that sense. It's available in English medium. Yes, it is only in English medium person. Please understand this point. It is only in, it is not your job to understand the syllabus. It is my job to understand it. Once I have taught you, trust me, any question you'll be able to answer. Casual reading of NCRT is enough? Yes, more than enough. Yes, Shreyas, you can do that. In June, July month, modern day is already done. Why are not we having class again? Sudha, the problem is that you have not seen the year long calendar. One subject gets repeated twice, every in morning, in evening, and in weekend. This may be your second chance, second time. I don't know what is the issue in the back end that ethics has not been done. Maybe you did not need to do this. Stay with me till 1. I'll figure it out in part B and tell you what is the reason. So don't have to worry. Abhishek, basics are not clear. My doubt. Basics, so that is my job to make your basics clear. That is not your job. UPSC question history is too difficult to solve. No, Pratik, not right. Not right. Actually, not right. If you have an understanding of history, UPSC state the history subjects are history questions are very straightforward. Sir, I'll topics from basics cause 4 years I don't know. Yes, Sakshi, everything from basics. I'm not presuming anything. I'm telling you, trust me. If you trust me, we can start. Please understand this point. I'm not going to say, okay, let's start history. I'm going to start from 0 to 100. So I have to start from 0 only. So can we start our discussion? Okay. This is the only thing I'm asking from you, is to write a yes. That's the only thing. Because I need everybody's consent to move forward. Okay. Now see, the first module we start is called Mughal decline. It's called Mughal decline. Now, for some of you, it's a topic which you've already done. And for some of you, you have no idea. So, the way we proceed is, I'll tell you the purpose of this discussion. See, there's a movie which we are going to see, and that movie is called The Expansion of British Raj in India, which is how the British captured India. Now, in movies, you need actors. You need actors. And to understand these actors, you need their backstory. So basically, Mughal decline is a purely medieval topic. But there are, for example, certain heroes or actors in my story. For example, Shah Alam II. For example, Alamgir. For example, Bahadur Shah Zafar. And these actors I cannot talk about without giving you the basic backstory. They're called the weak successors of Aurangzeb. So what I am trying to do here is try to understand this point and trying to create the bhumika or the context or the background. If you understand the background, then when I talk about them, for example, in the Battle of Plassey, in the Battle of Buxar, when I'll be talking about them, for example, in expansion of British Raj in India, when I'll be talking about them in Mysore, in Maratha, or in any other context, you will not be clueless. And that is basically the purpose here. So don't have to do a thesis on Muhammad Shah Rangila, but you need to know who he is generally. So very simply, I will start from a point where I will tell you what is Mughal decline. Who are the Mughals? What are the Mughals? Who is Akbar? Who is Jahangir? Who is Shah Jahan? Leave it to ancient medieval art and culture class. Rather, you start from a point where I will discuss about a ruler who mostly everybody knows about. So now what I want, I know you've not done medieval. That is why I'm starting from a certain point where you will not forget medieval and you don't have to worry about medieval. So don't worry about that. I know what you know and you don't know. So I'm not presuming anything. So I'm not asking you what is Mansabdari system. I'm not asking you who are the Mughals. I'm telling you what it is. So now from this point forward, I want your concentration in class because I want to explain to you. What is the concept of Mughal decline, and then in the context of the Mughal decline only, we can understand the advent of Europeans into India because the same period. But for some of you, this medieval and ancient is a small bird which is sitting on a wire. So I want to also tell you how history is divided. Because if you will understand the timelines, you will understand it better. See, history is divided into basically 6 sections. You have ancient, then you have something called early medieval, then you have medieval, then you have early modern, and then you have modern. Now, basically, ancient is 2 million BCE. Now, this BC and CE, don't worry, I'll tell it to you in ancient India. But 2 million to 750 CE. 750 to 1200 is called early medieval. Then 1200 to 1707 is called medieval CE. 1707 to 1757 is called early modern, and 1757 to 1947 is called modern India. So basically, all of these dates are marking a beginning and an end. For 2 million BCE, it is basically arguing about how we have at the Paleolithic, and 750 is basically the decline of Guptas. 600 is the right one, but 750 totally gone. This is the period from Gupta to what we call as Turkish invasion, and this is from Delhi Sultanate to Aurangzeb's death. To Aurangzeb's death, which is 1707. And from 1707 to 1757 is from Aurangzeb death to Plassey, and from Plassey to independence. This is basically how you divide history. This is the basic division of history into 6 parts. Now, ancient medieval, early medieval, you will do with me separately, which is the ancient medieval art and culture part. We start a story here. But unfortunately, I have to tell you who are the Mughals a little bit and discuss who is this person called Aurangzeb. But as I said, their purpose is not to understand the Mughals, but is to create the context for the advent of Europeans. Now, are we clear with regards to this? This is a basic, very basic things I'm telling you. This is something which you know, we should know, or generally should know when you're doing history. Because people tend to think only 3 parts, not it's 3 parts, but it's actually 6 parts. Okay. Pratik, totally your call. How you want to go about it. It's totally your call. Okay. Is this clear, everyone? Yes. Okay. Now, I'll give you a very brief story of the Mughals, and we do it in a lot of detail, close to 8 hours, 9 hours in medieval. But I'll give you a very simple story of the Mughals. Don't have to learn it, but just enjoy it. So you would know that there's somebody called Babur, and Babur came to India in 1526, and he fought with a person called Ibrahim Lodi. That is called the First Battle of Panipat, again considered a very important watershed moment. Babur won over the Lodis, and he established what is called the Mughal dynasty. Now, the Mughal dynasty is one of the dynasties which was coming up at this point of time, as there are 3 dynasties which came together up in Asia, which is one are called the Ottomans, the second one are called the Safavids, and the Mughals. Mughals in the Indian subcontinent. Now, you will ask me, sir, where does this word Mughal come from? So basically, they never used to call themselves Mughals, but this is a British distortion. The mother of Babur was a Mongol, Genghis Khan descendant, and the British were never able to say Mongol, so Mongol became Mughal. Mughal se ho gaya Mughal. But they are basically Timurids. They are descendants of Timur, an invader in Central Asia. Now, Babur was able to establish his empire in India. Thereafter came Humayun, his son. They all came from Central Asia, not Afghanistan, Central Asia, which is Turkmenistan, Kazakhstan, that sector. Now, after Babur comes Humayun. Humayun did not have a very stable empire, and very simply, we are doing this. We are studying history as a for the purpose of UPSC, or literally history for the purpose of UPSC. For the purpose of UPSC, I'm not going to teach my. If you know me, you would know I don't teach unnecessary things. I'm the last person who will ever give you unnecessary facts. Now, Humayun did not have a very stable empire, and it was a person called Sher Khan or Sher Shah Suri who took away power from the Mughals for a brief period of 10 to 15 years. And thereafter, Humayun came back and captured power. Thereafter, Humayun's son is the greatest of all Mughal emperors, which is Akbar. Akbar, everybody generally knows because of his religious policy, because of Jodhabai, because of the way most of the monuments which have been created were started under Akbar's period. Akbar, everybody knows. Even on the road, if you will ask a person who is Akbar, they will ask you what is history for you, he will say Akbar Ashoka. Everybody knows about these two people. Akbar was followed by his son Jahangir. Jahangir, very good painter. Empire is still stable. Thereafter comes Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan, everybody knows because of the Taj Mahal and because of the Red Fort and the Jama Masjid in Delhi. Shah Jahan, a very prolific builder. But Shah Jahan's son is basically the villain of the Mughal Empire. And the name of that person, who is Shah Jahan's son, who took power away from Shah Jahan. What is the name of Shah Jahan's son? Aurangzeb. Yes. Aurangzeb is again one personality which remains in the news for some reason or the other. So you have Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. But I don't care about these first five first. I only care about this person called Aurangzeb. Now, Aurangzeb is basically considered the opposite of Akbar. If Akbar was very tolerant, removed multiple taxes, did not basically trouble the Hindu population, Aurangzeb is famously known to be a bigot, a person who basically was not very tolerant in that sense. Now, our story starts with Aurangzeb. So now Aurangzeb is basically the son of Shah Jahan. Shah Jahan has been building a lot of things. And now I want to discuss how the Mughals will decline, because it is in the vacuum, political vacuum of the Mughals not being the most powerful political structure in India. It is in this context that the British, the French, the Portuguese, and the Dutch and the Danes will find opportunities to enter into India. So, are we clear with regards to who is Aurangzeb? Yes? Are we clear with regards to that? Yes or no? Yes? For the people who have no idea of history, this is how we are going to go about it. He's the son of Shah Jahan. Now, see, the Mughal Empire between this period, 1526 to maybe 1650, if you want to take in between a date, was very powerful. Was very, very powerful. However, between 1650 and 1707, an empire like the Mughal Empire, covering most of India, now started to show signs of fatigue. And it is upon the ruler who has to manage these issues. Now, when we are discussing Mughal decline, the issues don't actually start with Aurangzeb. It starts with Shah Jahan. Sarthak will talk about that. There, the necessary evil is Nitin Singhania. When we'll do art and culture, we'll talk about it. Now, Acha, you already have the book. You're satisfied with the book for history. Art and culture part very categorically was left out of it. There's a separate book which I'm coming up with, but that will need another 6 to 7 months. So I'm trying to make sure that you have a better alternative to Nitin Singhania. So don't worry about that. But for that, I need a certain amount of time. Right now, I've tried to plug in the gap in ancient, medieval, and art, what we call as modern India. Basically, the problem is Poonam Lal Dahiya is a book which students refer to. Please stay away from that book. It is a very dangerous book. Multiple problems are there, multiple factual errors are there. As it is, she's written 2 books, ancient and medieval separate, modern separate. That is again unnecessary overkill for a UPSC aspirant. So don't worry about art and culture. That book is also coming. As of right now, Nitin Singhania is the most important book. Okay. Now, Mughal decline. The issue does not really start with Aurangzeb. Starts with Shah Jahan. Now, if I'm Shah Jahan and I'm building the Taj Mahal, if I'm building the Red Fort, if I'm building the Jama Masjid, all this needs what? What does this construction activity need? Money. All of this needs money, and a lot of money. And very simply, an empire which is fighting wars in the Deccan, if you start to build such big monuments with wars happening in the background, you are basically draining the treasury. So Shah Jahan, what he was basically was a brat, was a spoiled child who was overspending. He was overspending on monuments, on what we call as the lavish lifestyle which he had. He basically was putting a lot of pressure on the treasury. So even before Aurangzeb came to power, he had already created a fiscal crisis. Which is that there is already a lot of burden which the treasury has, and he's drained the empire of money. Now, when we talk about the fiscal crisis itself, Aurangzeb inherits it. Now, if you will go and ask any random person, why did the Mughals decline? The first thing which the person is going to say is, Aurangzeb was a bigot. Aurangzeb destroyed temples. Aurangzeb basically alienated the Hindus. Aurangzeb's religious policy was the problem. So people tend to argue that Aurangzeb was, and there's a historian called Jadunath Sarkar, he was the first one to argue that also. They tend to argue that Aurangzeb was the single-handed reason why the Mughal Empire declined. But logically, tell me one thing, an empire like Mughal India, would it decline by just one person's action? Use your logic. Can an empire as big as the Mughal Empire just decline because one ruler did something? No. And that is technically true. Because there were an interplay of factors which you need to know, and if you understand them, then you will realize why Aurangzeb is basically given too much credit for something which he should not get also. Now, very simply, there is no denying the fact that Aurangzeb was a literal staunch Muslim who literally made sure that the Rajputs, who had been very, very close to the Mughal Empire, abandoned him. So he will bring back a lot of taxes on pilgrimage. He will be the one who will say, I'm a Muslim, I will not allow any form of what we call as singing and dancing in the court. He will be the one who will also go for multiple forms of destruction of temples. So he is the one who was actually problematic. Aurangzeb was problematic, that is for sure. He is a bigot, that is for sure. Nobody is denying that. But there were much bigger systemic issues in the Mughal Empire which actually compound to what he was doing at the center. See, Aurangzeb can control imperial policy, which is the central policy. But Aurangzeb cannot control what is happening on the ground. And on the ground, what is happening is multiple issues are cropping up. And you see how Aurangzeb will not be able to manage them, and his successors will also not be able to manage them. Now you see, our core issue is fiscal crisis and overspending. Who did this overspending? Who did this overspending? Shah Jahan. Very good. So it is not a problem created by Aurangzeb. Now, add to it, the non-tolerant policy of Aurangzeb, and what you get is basically the Rajputs abandoning the Mughals. And when I will teach you Mughal India, I will tell you that the Rajputs played a very important pillar in the way Mughal Empire survived in India. Basically, all important positions, all important concepts were developed by the Rajputs only. Man Singh, Todarmal, you have Bhagwan Das, multiple very important personalities who were generals and governors of the Mughal Empire and were Rajputs, and that was because of Akbar's orientation towards that. Now, there are two ways in which you resolve a fiscal crisis. There are two ways in which you resolve a fiscal crisis. First is increase the income of the state. Increase the income of the state. And second would be increase the taxes, or let's write it in this way, that these are interconnected rather than two-way street itself. Let's say that the only way you increase it is increase the income. Increase the income of the state. Now, how do you increase the income of the state? There are two ways. Increase taxation of the people, or you do one more very interesting thing, which is that you increase or decrease the expenditure of the state on state machinery. So you increase taxation, decrease spending. Any rocket science here? Any rocket science here? Is it difficult to understand? What about invading? There's no option of invasion. They can't invade. They don't have the power to do it. They don't have the army to do it. And as it is, by the time we are talking about it, Mughals are weak and the regional kingdoms are stronger. So is this logical? That there's a fiscal crisis, there's a need to increase the income of the state, and there's a need to increase the taxation, or go for you have to decrease the expenditure. Standard. You have also been in a fiscal crisis. You've done it yourself, which is, yeah, you try to increase your income and you try to decrease your expenditure. Now the problem is, either solution he takes will compound the issue even more. So let's take the two ways in which he can do it. Now, in the Mughal Empire, there are two types of land. One is called Khalisa, which is basically crown land, basically land which the crown owns, and all income from Khalisa goes directly to the central treasury. Think of it like income tax. Directly goes to the state. And what was left out of Khalisa was called Pe Baki. Again, very easy word. Jo baki hai, wo Pe Baki. So, if you have the whole empire, Khalisa is crown land. What is left is Pe Baki. Now, Pe Baki, what they used to do, see, very simple. You have two types of land revenue generating areas. Imagine that you have one district in which there is a certain part of district out of which the revenue straight away goes into the central treasury. However, there's also another part in which I have multiple bureaucratic officers under me. For example, 3 to 5 officers are under me. Now, rather than giving them a salary, what I choose to do is I give them land. Which is that you take some land, whatever revenue comes is your salary. Now, basically, the area Pe Baki was allocated as Jagirs. Jagirs, arrangement of land revenues throughout the empire. Yes, the whole of the empire is divided like this. So if the empire is like this, there will be a certain land which is Khalisa, and then it will be divided into smaller units which are called Jagirs. And these Jagirs are given to, and you would have heard about these people called the Jagirdars or Mansabdars. Think of these people as IS officers. This is what you want to become, an IS officer. It's like the ICTA system. If you understand ICTA, it's exactly like that. So basically, Jagirdar Mansabdars are the officers of the empire. Now imagine that you become an IS officer and the government of India can give you two ways your salaries. One, it can say that we will send it to you directly, cash salary, or they can say that you go to a district, whatever revenue comes out of that, you go and collect it. Out of that, 10% you can keep. Basically, Jagirs are like this, that the officer manages everything and the revenue of that Jagir is the officer's salary. So it's a very good system because it takes away the headache of giving cash to everyone. Imagine that there are 2 lakh officers in your empire and everybody has to come to Delhi to take the salary. Rather, they're given lands which are equal to their salary and they collect it, and the day-to-day headache of giving that person that salary or collecting that revenue is gone. So with one arrow, you are hitting 2 birds. You're having administrative convenience also and you are happy also. I'll explain this in much more elaborate detail when we will do in medieval. But these are basically IS officers. Now you tell me one thing. If I have to increase the income of the state, I will increase Khalisa or I will increase Pe Baki? I will increase what? Very good. So you are following what is actually happening. Khalisa. You will increase Khalisa because here 100% of all the revenue goes to the state. And Pe Baki is not state's income, it is the income distributed to the officers. So now Aurangzeb, what he does is he increases Khalisa. He increases Khalisas. He increases Khalisa. If Khalisa will increase, Baki will go up or down. If this area is going to become this big and then this big, Baki goes up or down? Very good. Baki will go down. Now, the backbone of the Mughal Empire is basically the Mansabdars. The steel frame of the government of India are the IS officers, are the bureaucracy. But sir, is it not giving up income source? No, Bishwajit. If the Khalisa increases, therefore the income of the state increases, and the Pebaki goes down. This is not about giving up income source. Everywhere taxation is being done. But here in Khalisa, taxes go. Think of it, and I'll give you a very simple example. Think of it like CGST and SGST, if you understand it. The central GST goes directly to the center, and the SGST goes to the state. Khalisa is SCGST and Pebaki is SGST, if you understand GST. But the simple point is, simple point is, I have increased the share which I have. I'll give you another example, very simple example. Imagine that imagine that there are 50 loaves of bread, 50 bread pieces. You are with me, I am here, and what happens is that I keep 20 pieces of bread for me, and then I say that each one of you divide one bread. So now what I have to do is, for me, it is easy because I've taken 20, and now you guys have to figure out how you divide that 20 amongst you, or what is left amongst you. Now, if I increase my share of bread, what will happen to your share? What will happen to your share? Your share is decreasing. Now, tell me one more thing. If you are a Jagirdar in the Mughal Empire, and if previously you used to get one loaf of bread, and now there are more Jagirdars than Jagirs, what is going to happen? There are more people to give the bread than the bread pieces. What is going to happen? Very good. Conflict, clashes, and now the administrative machinery is fighting amongst itself to find income. Imagine all the IS officers today are told that the more you go and conquer territory, the better income you will have. Or each one of the IS officers has to compete with each other to get their salary. If officers compete to get their salary, what will happen to administration? What will happen to administration? What will happen to administration? Come on, tell me. Logically, it's all logically linked. Very good. Corruption, compromise, disruption, and it will basically destroy the whole fabric of bureaucracy. Now, you have basically given me the definition of what is called as, what Satish Chandra calls, Jagirdari crisis. That basically, you see, there's a fiscal crisis. The answer to that was to increase income. While doing this, Aurangzeb takes the path of increasing Khalisa or state land. By increasing Khalisa, he has decreased Pebaki, which means that less land for salary allocation. And if that is the case, Jagirdar Mansabdar Akash for you right now is the same. Jagirdar Mansabdar, same thing. Jagirdars will start fighting. It is technically not the same, but for this purpose of analysis, it is the same. We'll start fighting, and this will create Jagirdari crisis. So from a fiscal crisis, now Aurangzeb has started an administrative one. Now are you seeing how Aurangzeb is basically is immaterial or secondary to the story itself? How is secondary to the story itself? Because the way he will try to manage the empire is the way the Mughal empire will start to decline. So we started with a fiscal crisis, we reached a Jagirdari crisis. Anybody has any issue in understanding this? It's not difficult. It's actually not difficult. The only thing is that these words are new to you. Just have to understand on face value. Trust me, what I'm telling you is correct. And if you do that, when we'll do ancient medieval, you will see these stories will come together. What I'm trying to do here is just trying to create the actors for your discussion. And for that, I have to have this discussion with you. Fiscal crisis leads to Jagirdari crisis. Do we understand the first two crises within the Mughal Empire? Yes or no? Yes. Myself first, write your name. You're given your name as myself. I don't know who you are. But when you're saying no, you need to tell me what is the reason you don't know. What is the aspect you don't understand? Fiscal crisis, income needs to increase. Income needs to increase, so state will increase its own share. If state will increase its own share, the way the officers are given their salaries, that land will reduce. If people are fighting for their own salaries, they will not care about administration, and that in turn will lead to an administrative crisis. Jagir is the land which is given to a Jagirdar. The name Jagirdar, the holder of a Jagir, is called the Jagirdar. Anybody who has any fundamental issue here, don't sit there clueless. I am ready to repeat as much as possible. Pratha, that is your issue. My connection is totally clear. You have to refresh. Can I move forward and talk about agrarian crisis? Okay, great. Now, Yamya, I'll give you an overview once I've covered the whole thing. That way, it will make more sense because they're interconnected stories. Don't have to worry about those things. Now, why they will fight as they are already given certain land? Jayant, sure. But I am given land in Agra and you are given land in Nepal. Or I have given land in Agra, fertile land. And you are given land in a in Rajasthan, desert area. Will you like it? Will you like it? Who will get more income? I will get more income. Would you want to go and have your land allocated in Rajasthan, proper desert? No. So they're fighting for the best land which is available. Okay. Pratik, he may be an educated ruler, but the problem is administration and education don't go together. Okay. Now, the second solution which Aurangzeb had, were they fighting amongst themselves or against the crown? Amongst themselves. There's competition amongst themselves. Para, I'm not going to use jizya. Jizya is a separate tax altogether. Jizya, khalisa is a land allocation. Don't use these terms because for explaining jizya, I have to go back to Delhi Sultanate. We are not going to go into that. I will teach you that. Please just be where I am. This is the unfortunate way modern India starts. That is the problem. Because modern India starts with the presumption of medieval India. Half of you know it, half of you don't know it. Because some of you are actually following. I am more concerned about the students who have not any understanding of history. That is why I'm being at the level where I am. Okay. There is no connection to the Rajputs. I will tell you the connection to the Rajputs later. Please understand this. Some of you have already done this topic. I know that. So just have to bear this section because from this point forward, after I've covered decline of Mughal, everything is new to everyone. Now, the second solution which Aurangzeb has is increased taxation. Now, when we talk about increasing taxation, who pays these taxes? Who pays these taxes? He only increases land area plus, yes, he increases land area, taxes remains the same. So the increase, what was going to a Jagirdar previously was now coming to the state. Okay. It is the public, but here it is the peasant. It is the peasant. Farmer, peasant, whatever you want to call him. Now, see, there's a track between the two water bodies, which is called Ganga and Yamuna, which is called Duab. Duab itself means do ab. Ab means water between two waters. Now, this whole sector from Meerut to Bengal is a very fertile area. Is a very, very fertile area. And basically, it had the capacity to produce a lot of income. But if we talk about agriculture in India is dependent on a very important source of water. What is that phenomenon which is basically the source of all form of irrigation? Very good. The monsoons. The southwestern monsoons are the most important source of irrigation for all of this sector. For all this sector. Now, Aurangzeb's, you can say he was unlucky. Why was he unlucky? Because when he increased the taxation of this sector, unfortunately, and there is now a whole literature on this, which used to not be there previously, he did it in what are called El Nino years. He did it in El Nino years. There were successively 6 El Nino years in Aurangzeb's reign. To tell you what basically El Nino is, El Nino is basically a southern oscillation which happens in the Pacific between Chile and Australia. And if the Chilean coast becomes extremely hot, the monsoonal winds become very, very weak. Basically, there has to be a high pressure near Chile. If it basically becomes weak, the winds flow slowly and the intensity basically goes down. The sister of El Nino is La Nina, which is the opposite, which is a very strong high pressure across Chile, and therefore the trade wind becomes much stronger, and that becomes the southwestern monsoons. So El Nino year mostly equals to in India a form of what we call as failure of monsoons. Now, if I'm a peasant and I have less monsoon and more taxes, how will I respond? How will I respond? How will I respond? Very good. Rebel. So basically, Aurangzeb was not able to increase the taxes when it was El Nino years. So this action leads to agrarian revolt. The peasants gave up production. They said, we will not produce for anything. And if there's an agrarian revolt, it is not good for the economy. Now, if all of this was not enough, as soon as Aurangzeb died with all of this in the background, there were 2 invaders which came to India, Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali. We'll discuss Abdali when we'll talk about Marathas. But Nadir Shah and Ahmad Shah Abdali, whatever was left in the treasury, they looted that. And the biggest issue which the Mughals faced was their successors were useless. Basically, every ruler who came after Aurangzeb had no idea how to actually solve the problem. So if you allow me, I want to revisit the Mughal decline with you in one slide, in which I basically give you the structure through which you need to understand Mughal decline. What is basically the real problem which led to Mughal decline? I am going to now teach you weak successors, but in order to make you understand weak successors, I want you to first understand Mughal decline. Can I consolidate all of this as Yamya wanted in one slide and you understand everything in a right way? Now, before I do that, are you understanding what I'm trying to do here? These are descriptive portions which I'm trying to give you logically. Everything which Aurangzeb did had a logic, and therefore these are things you need to understand. If you understand, you never have to learn. So let's see. Let's see. See, the concept is very straightforward. What is Mughal decline? What is Mughal decline? Now, basically, Mughal decline is a fiscal crisis. Is a fiscal crisis created by Shah Jahan and the answer to this fiscal crisis one was increase taxes. Sakshi, refresh. Increase Paybaki, or rather not Paybaki, increase Khalisa, and we can remove this from here. Two pillars we can use here, and the consequence of these two is basically that that you increase taxes leads to Jagirdari crisis plus agrarian revolt. Creates agrarian revolt. Basically, wherever he wanted to expenditure, he wanted to decrease, income he wanted to increase, and in doing that, he basically created the Jagirdari crisis and the agrarian crisis. Now, if that was not enough, then you have three bigger issues which plagued the Mughal Empire, which is that whatever was not there, his religious policy alienated the support. Foreign invaders such as Nadir Shah and Abdali took whatever was there. And the cherry on the cake were the weak successors. The weak successors. So basically, Mughal decline is an interplay of all these things, which is invasions, Jagirdari crisis, agrarian revolt, and religious policy. Religious policy. Add to it weak successors. And now I want to discuss the weak successors, but do you understand Mughal decline now? That how these are basically things interconnected to each other. If you can remember this slide and nothing else, my job is done, your job is done. Your job is done, which is whatever religious policy, which is the temple destruction, bringing back taxes on Hindus, being a staunch Muslim, alienating the Rajputs. That is something we'll discuss in medieval India. You take it at face value that he alienated people. And see, when I talk about Mughal decline, weak successors, economic bankruptcy, invasion, Jagirdari crisis, rebellions, and religious policy. This is what is there. This is how I teach, which is that I always give you basic understanding first, then we look at the PPT, and then we summarize everything. Now, what I want to do now is basically weak successors. Deccan campaign, Ankit, would be the reason for the bankruptcy. I don't want to bring that in because that will complicate this flowchart. So that is the point. The reason for the economic bankruptcy is also constant fighting in the Deccan sector. That is a point which should be there, but I've kept it back because it is of no purpose to you right now. So can we discuss the weak successors? Now we are going into something which none of you know. For some of you, this would have been a repetition, but now from this point forward, we can basically go into weak successors. Can we do that? You want a break here? Some of you writing break. No. We can do weak successors and then we can take a break. We can do weak successors and then we can take a break. Okay. Now, Kamba, that's a good question, that what would have Aurangzeb done to solve this fiscal crisis better? But the answer to that question is nothing really. Because the crisis was so deep that any action he would have done would have led to this only. So see, after a certain point, empires decline and there is nothing which you can really do. So these weak successors also had too much on their plate to do anything. So hypothetically, maybe he could have managed the Khalisa issue better, but the way he was dealing with everything, it was bound to fail in that sense. Okay. Now comes the yes, it's basically the father spending too much and the son paying for it. Now comes the discussion of weak successors. Now, when we talk about weak successors, very clearly, very straightforward, one thing should be clear in your mind. You don't have to know too much detail about them. However, what UPSC does is that it asks the chronological order of these successors. That is the most obvious question they can ask you. Why are we calling these successors weak? Because they were never able to really manage anything. Not even Delhi they were able to manage. Till Aurangzeb, these are very strong rulers. Akbar, Shah Jahan, Jahangir, Aurangzeb, very strong rulers. But successors within 3 years, they will keep on going away. That's why called weak successors. They're not powerful enough to hold the empire together. So later Mughals, yes, later Mughals and weak successors, same thing. Later Mughals or weak successors, same thing. Now, as I said, no unnecessary knowledge I want to give you. I'm telling you what the question is going to come, which is arrange these people in chronological order, or the second question is going to be out of the 2-3 important personalities which are there. Now, before we discuss their details, let's try to first learn their chronological order. Now, I am the last person who will ever ask you to learn this, which is these dates. I don't believe in learning dates because there are certain dates which you need to know. I will give them to you. I will give you timelines also. These dates are only going to overload your brain. So rather, there is one acronym which can basically give you the name of all rulers in one go itself. And I'll make it in front of you to show you how you actually do it. See, never do, for example, B, J, F, R, M. That will become too much because there are multiple rulers with the same starting point. So now my acronym is going to be like this. See, Baja, Bahadur Shah, and Jahandar Shah. Baja, Farmu, Baja Farmu. Thereafter, Ah Al Shah and Akba. Now I'll bring it in one slide itself. Baja Farmu Ak Al Shah Akba. Now, basically, why have I given you this? Is called acronym making. This is called mnemonics. Now, Baja means Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah. Farmu, Farrukhsiyar, Raifuddin, Muhammad Shah Rangila. Ak al Shah. Now, here you have to remember Ak and Ak. There are two Aks. So, one Ak is, you have one Ak Akbar, and the other one is Baja Paramu Ah Al Shah, not Ahal Shah. It was not Ak Shah. So this is So we don't have an issue here. MH Shah it is. So no repetition only. No issues at all. So when there's repetition, you have to pay attention. Baja Faramu Ah Al Shah Akba. Last ruler Bahadur Shah Zafar. Now you will say, sir, how then I answer a question? See, in the examination, they will give you the names. You just have to write this down in front of the question and find the names in the sequence. Find the names in the sequence. I'll read the whole names out to you, and we'll do one practice question also, so that you understand how to use this information. First, I want you to write this down if you want to, but remember this. Baja, Baja, Farmu, Ahalsha, Akba. I'm giving you a minute. Remember this. Then I'll talk to you about the rulers who are actually important in this sequence. And then I'll take one question to show you how you can apply this also. Baja, Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah, Farrukhsiyar, Raifuddin, Muhammad Shah, Alam Shah, Shah Alam, Akbar II, Bahadur Shah. Can I move forward? Can we discuss the basic contributions, and then we'll come back to this again? Yes? Okay. You see. Now, the first major ruler after Aurangzeb was Bahadur Shah I. But the problem was that by the time he actually came to power, he's the eldest son of Aurangzeb. He's 63 years old. And basically, he had no idea what he was doing. And in the 3 years which he ruled, he was not able to stop anything which was really happening. So now what will happen is that when you have weak rulers, ministers become very, very, what we call as active. So now one of the ministers of Bahadur Shah was a person called Zulfikar Khan. Zulfikar Khan, what we will do is that he will appoint a puppet ruler called Jahandar Shah as the emperor, because he wanted to become the prime minister himself. He is one of the ones who actually undid one of his successors or what his predecessors policy. Jizya, which is a tax which is paid by every Hindu to a Muslim ruler for protection, was removed, which was brought back by Aurangzeb, but was removed by Jahandar Shah. But again, Jahandar Shah, you can see March to February, very unstable rule, maximum 1 year he remained. Thereafter, the next most, and this is the most important personality for us, first most important personality first, you have to remember this name for sure, because he's very, very critical for remembering what we call as the British, which is Farrukhsiyar. Farrukhsiyar gave a very important farman to the British in 1770. And when I take his name later, you need to be very, very, very clear of who he is. Now, he was actually appointed by two brothers who were actually ministers.
Abdullah Khan and Hussein Ali. They are called the Sayyid brothers. Farrukhsiyar became new emperor, followed a very tolerant religious policy, but he will do a blunder which I will teach you later by the end of this day, which is giving the British a very important order or farman. Then comes the unfortunate Rafi ud Darjat, which is basically he ruled for not even 5 to 6 months, shortest period. Now comes a person who is known for his very lavish lifestyle, even when the empire was very weak. Named Muhammad Shah, but also called Muhammad Shah Rangila. Rangila because of his way of living itself. Now, why Muhammad Shah Rangila is important? Because Nadir Shah came and looted Delhi during his rule. During his rule. So Baja, Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah, Faramu. So you have Farrukhsiyar, Refut Darjat, and Muhammad Shah Rangila in the story. Again, whatever I'm marking is important, nothing more, nothing less. I don't have to do a thesis on Muhammad Shah Rangila. I really don't care about Muhammad Shah Rangila as it is. Thereafter, you have Ahmad Shah. Jizya was already abolished by Jahandar Shah. Then Haruf again he abolished it. He brought it back. Then he again abolished it. This jizya was multiple times brought in, brought removed. That is a source of revenue for the state, and that is why they were playing with it. Now comes Ahmad Shah. Ahmad Shah, more or less an incompetent ruler. Actually, the wife of Muhammad Shah Rangila used to rule in the name of Ahmad Shah. Thereafter, Alamgir too. Now we are moving into the place where you need to know the names. Alamgir is the second most important ruler you need to know because he is the one under which or under whom Plassey will happen. Basically, he will be sitting in Delhi when the Battle of Plassey will happen with the in Bengal. Alamgir too, and then comes the third most important in this story, Shah Alam the second. So basically, these two, Al Shah is very important. Alamgir and Shah Alam. He is important because under him, the third battle of Panipat will also happen. But more importantly, Battle of Buxar, he is the one who actually gave the Diwani rights to the British, which will in turn make the British the territorial power which will dominate the Indian subcontinent very soon. So thereafter, Akbar too, he's the one who gave Raja Ram Mohan Roy the title Raja because he had gone to London to argue that Akbar too should get some form of pension. That is the level the Mughal emperors had gone down. And last ruler is who will be defeated or who will be captured in the revolt of 1857, which is the which is Bahadur Shah Zafar, the last Mughal in India. Why did Alamgir not intervene in Plassey? I will tell you, Gaurav, because it's a Bengal-centric thing, and they have now become independent. Now, before we move, I give you a break. This is basically the whole genealogy of all of the Mughals in India. Again, do not learn this. Do not learn. For the curious people in class, this is basically the way they went forward. Babur, Humayun, Akbar, Jahangir, Shah Jahan, Aurangzeb. Thereafter, Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah, and then becomes complicated. Then you have Farrukhsiyar, then Refut Darjat, then Shah Jahan II. Then you will have Alamgir, rather than Muhammad Shah, then Shah Bahadur, then Alamgir, Shah Alam, Akbar. In this, you just have to remember he is an important person in our story. Shah Alam the second is important, and Alamgir is important. These are the only three which you need to remember. 1, 2, 3. Now, before we do all of this, we take basically a break. When did the class start? Was the class going to start at 12? No, 12 on Saturday. Sunday, 10 o'clock. Now, I'm revising with you. Baja, Bahadur Shah, Jahandar Shah, Faramu, Farrukhsiyar, Rafiur Darjat, Muhammad Shah, Ahmad Shah, Alamgir, Shah Alam, Akbar, and Bahadur Shah Zafar. If this is clear in your mind, 50-60% also, I want to give you a question. And I'll use the polling feature to check if you remember it or not. Can I give you a sample type question? I'll give you a very simple, straightforward question. This is the type of question which will come in the examination if they ask you an area from this area. Ready? Perfect. So you have
Arrange the following in chronological order. Yes, don't worry, Mrudula, don't have to worry. From this point forward, I'll give you a break. After break, you can you everything is new. You can see this from the recording later. Don't leave the class. Okay. Now, come on. Arrange them in chronological order. Rather, I'll you just give me the code in the comment section. Give me the code 1 2 3 4. Give me the sequence. I'll wait for everybody to join. Write it down. Very good. We have Baja, Faramu, Al Shah, Akba. So 2 1 3 4. Faruksiar, rather Bahadur Shah first, Faruksiar, Alamgir Shah Alam. Seemed easy. Now, when you started the class, did you really think that you would be able to do this in the first 2 hours? This is a very difficult thing to do. A lot of students start to learn dates. They will literally mess it up. Can I give you one more? Can I give you one more? Yes? Okay. And we'll do this. Don't worry, we'll do this from time to time. We'll do the previous year questions also, but I'll try to check your knowledge as much as possible in class itself so that you don't have to go back and revise. We can revise in class itself. Okay. Now, now, let's do one more. Come on. Yamya, check. You have started it with the people for some reason are starting with 2. Why are you starting with 2? It can't be 2, right? It is Badusha Zafar. It's not Badusha. Read closely. Read closely. He will be the last one. So it is 3 1 4 2. 3 1 4 2. Yes. Third is Jahandar Shah. Ba ja ja. Faramu mu. Ak al Shah. None of that. Akba. Akba. Teach your parents, teach your sister, brother, dog this Baja Farmu. And if you are able to make your parents give the chronological order, my task is done. If your siblings and your parents can do this, then anybody can do it. Right? You can make a better, if you want to make a better acronym, totally your call. But now you get it how to manage this data. These are called descriptive areas. These are called factual areas. Now, if this is all clear, I would like to give you a break here. Can I do that? But for the first 2 hours, does it make sense? Are you comfortable? For the students who are saying we have no idea about history, are you all comfortable now?
you have learned one of the most difficult things to do, which is to put close to 11 successors in one go. So I hope the students who had no idea about history are comfortable. I already have a lot of brilliant students, and I want you to come and become and be at that level with all of them, because some of you have already met in ancient medieval, but I believe that you should be able to do learning and revision the same class itself. So if you are afraid of history, I will remove that fear. But just make sure that if you are not following, feel free to tell me that, sir, I am not able to follow. Can you repeat? That is your right, and that is my job. Right? Okay. Perfect. So it is 11:55. We'll come back at 12:05. 10 minutes is more than enough. And when we come back at 12:05, we will take the story till 1. I'll introduce advent of Europeans to you. We'll talk about the Portuguese. Now the taste is going to totally change. The background is done. Now when I will say Alamgir, when I will say Shah Alam, when I will say Farrukhsiyar, when I will say Aurangzeb, when I will say Muhammad Shah Rangila, these words will ring a bell in your mind? Will ring a bell in your mind? Yes or no? Yes? Perfect. So we come back at 12:05, and then we take the story for Advent of Europeans. That is really modern India. This is the early modern part which we've done. See you at 12:06. Take in 1 minute. 12:06, and we take the story forward. Thank you. Arrival uprising are too factual. No Pratik. That can also be managed through timelines. I will show you. Okay, welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Now, can we say that weak sector doesn't have proper administration plans for the economy? Sure, that weak sector doesn't have the proper administration so that the economic assistance. I get you what you're trying to say, Nikhil. Yeah, in a way, they had no real control over anything to do anything generally. So it's be it administrative, be it economic, nothing really. Can we start again? Some of you left for the break and have not come back. So, okay. When we talk about the Europeans, there are certain fundamental questions and things which you need to know. See, when we talk about the advent of Europeans, the Europeans is not that never came to India. India as a subcontinent was known along with China to the whole world. To the whole world. And if Europe wanted to trade with this sector, they had a very important land route. Very important land route. What did the Europeans want from us? What did Europeans want from us? What did they want? What is the commodity which they want from us? Very good. Spices. And the most important spice out of the spices, what is the most important spice they wanted? Pepper. Very good. Very good. Very good. Why do you need? They need pepper. What is the purpose of pepper for them? Very good. Again, pepper is a preservative. If you add it to meat, it will basically preserve the meat for long period. Great. Perfect. Maza aa gaya. Very good. Now, if the Europeans wanted pepper previously, they used to very simply from this part of Europe, they had a whole connected land route, which you already know is called Silk Route, and they also had other routes through which they could come to India. So there are multiple routes, land routes which connected Central Asia, India, and Europe. Now, very simply, this is what we mean by Europeans already knowing about the Orient. They knew that India existed. They had a lot of, they wanted silk from China, they wanted pepper from India, they wanted other spices, they wanted cotton cloth from India. We have been an exporter of cotton cloth for centuries. So, very simply, what we are discussing right now here is that the Europeans knew India previously. It's not that the Europeans had no idea what India was, and they had multiple trade routes, land based, to come to India. But in the process of doing this, one thing is very clear that because there were land routes, no maritime route was actually ever explored. No maritime route was not known itself. They did not know how to go by sea to India because there was no need at that point of time. And as it is to go to the Indian subcontinent or to reach the Indian subcontinent by sea, you have to cross the biggest continent in that sense, which is Africa. So you have to go around Africa. You have to go around Africa to actually reach here. To come to India, you have to go around Africa, which in that point of time was a very, very big thing and a very, very difficult task to do. Very difficult task. Now, we are very clear that they knew Indian routes, which were Silk Road, or the Indian routes, which were Uttar Path, Dakshin Path. They knew the routes which used to connect India. However, in the period between 1400 and 1450, a major issue will emerge for the Europeans. And that issue was that there will be multiple dynasties which will rise, and very specifically, a dynasty called the Ottoman Empire. These are Turks, they are Muslims. The Ottoman Empire will emerge in this sector. Will emerge in this sector. The area which I have marked as with white is the area which the mighty Ottoman Empire, when they were actually properly strong, they used to control this whole sector. This sector. And at certain points of time, they could extend like a wall like this also. And basically, you can see one thing, that the Ottomans in a way have now basically blocked the route. They blocked the route. Here, the Ottomans have blocked the route. And at the time when the Ottomans were rising, at the same point of time, there was one more dynasty which was emerging, which I have already told you, which is in India, the Mughal Empire was emerging. And if that was not enough, there was also one more dynasty which emerged here. And they are basically called the Safavids. They're called the Safavids. Or the Safavids. And in India, as it is, we know that the Mughals will emerge. Now, basically, if you look at it, the direct linkage, the land route is blocked. Land route is blocked because at the end of the day, either the Ottomans or the Safavids block the access. I will tell you about the Ottomans in world history, but they are like the Safavids, like the Mughals, and basically they're Turkish people, Turkish tribe who were Muslims who captured power. Very powerful, basically in 3 different continents at one point of time. My purpose is not to explain to you who are the Ottomans. My purpose is to explain what the Ottomans did to the Europeans. Now, if what is the religion of the Europeans? What is the religion? The Christians. So now you have the Christian world, and at this point you basically have the Islamic world. And very simply, because and I'm writing it down, because the Ottomans blocked the access to India via land route, and they were taxing and controlling this sector. Europeans, now desperate for sea route. Are you getting my point? If they were bringing in, for example, pepper at 5 pounds. Now, because of the Ottomans, that 5 pounds worth of pepper has become 100 pounds. Because the Ottomans first charged something if you want to go through that area. As it is, the Christian is the Islamic world will not go together. Christianity and Islam at this point of time were in conflict also. So the first question was, why was there a need for a sea route to India? When they already had multiple routes, why was there a need to have a sea route to India and China? So are you understanding the necessity for it? Are you understanding necessity for it? Basically, necessity is the mother of all inventions. The same way, there is a necessity for finding a sea route to India, because this is not the way it is going to work. Because if you are buying paper at such a high price, then it becomes unsustainable for the Europeans to buy and sell it in any part of India, or buy and sell it in any part of Europe. So the reason, the need is because that they needed to find a route which could bypass this sector. They wanted to bypass this sector, wherein you have the Mughals, the Safavids, the Ottomans. This sector needed to be bypassed. And bypassing this sector can only be done if you go via sea. You have to come through the Arabian Sea. And if you come from the Arabian Sea, then only you can reach India. That is the only viable way now. The only viable. So, what I'm trying to explain to you is that the Europeans just did not wake up one day and say, "Chalo, Delhi chalte." No, no, no. There's a need, and it's the easiest would have been by road only. But maritime route was a necessity now. Maritime route was a necessity now, because you have multiple dynasties controlling this sector, which are making this journey difficult for the Europeans. Now, the first one, why they trading with China during this time? Via land route. Yes, they are doing it the way they do it. It's land route only. China land route a little bit more elaborate. They could go through Russia to take it, but Silk route was also mostly blocked. See, once this sector gets blocked by the Safavids are in this whole expanse, the Ottomans are in this whole area. So there's no way they can basically do trade without actually intervention of the Safavids or the Ottomans. Even if you come back, you have to enter through the Ottoman area only. So now, if these Europeans or the Europeans in 1492 onwards, they started to explore why Europeans wanted to come to India, because they want commodities which India has to sell. India was the Sone ki chidiya, was and will remain for most of the next 3 to 4 centuries before the British captured India. They needed silk from the Chinese, and they wanted spices from India. India was in demand. They come to India via China. How do you come to India via China? Ajay, tell me what is the issue, Akash, from coming from China into India? Use your geography. If you have to cross from China into India, what do you have to cross? Very good, Kambha. Himalayas. How will you come from here? If you enter into China also, how will you cross the Tibetan plateau? You have the whole wall called the Himalayas. Only way you enter is from this sector, northwestern sector, which has always been open for India. We have seas on the other side. You can't cross the Himalayas itself, and that is not viable. You would have to find passes. Looking at pass, that is not viable for the Europeans. Now, 1492 onwards, these Europeans will become desperate. Become desperate. From eastern states, again, your geography needs to be better. There's again a wall here of smaller, what we call as mountain routes. And please understand one more thing. If I have to come to India, why you want to reach India like this and not like you are trying to do this? Which is, I will come from here, then I will go here, then I will go from here, and then I will enter into India. It will take a year to do it. If this is easier, then why would I not? and you think that the Chinese will be happy that you're going to India. As it is, the Europeans were not allowed into interior China. So they can't go through China. So it's not that simple. It's not that simple. The only way you come to India is either coastline or you come from this sector. There's the only two ways historically, since Indian subcontinent was geologically made. These were the only two ways you do it. Okay, now 1492 onwards, they will become desperate. They will become desperate. And by 1492, the Portuguese and the Spanish were really interested in finding a route because that would be a game changer for their country. Now, the first attempt was by a person called Christopher Columbus in 1492. But rather than going to India, he crossed the Atlantic and reached America. So he went the other way around itself. He had to go south of the European continent. He went straight. So he somehow reached the what we call the Caribbean islands, and he was not able to do it. He was not able to reach the Indian subcontinent. Now, any other attempt, what used to generally happen was that they used to basically bounce around the western coast of Africa. Western coast of the Africa. What was the status of China during this period? It's an empire, Ming Empire, Qing Empire, of no purpose to you, but it's an empire of dynasties. Now, the problem is they're hopping around, they're bouncing around the different parts of Africa. You have to reach till this point somehow, and the first one to do it was a Portuguese navigator, and his name was Bartholomew Diaz. Diaz was the one who actually traveled across this coast and reached what today we call as Cape of Good Hope. Basically, this was called the Cape of Storms. Later, Henry the Navigator, who was the king, very, very interested in navigation and trade, he renamed it as Cape of Good Hope. That basically, this cape, this point will give good hope to the Portuguese to getting access to India. So it was basically Diaz who crossed over in 1496 that he reached here. And this was even before, in 1488 itself, he was able to find his way till Cape of Good Hope. By 1496 was properly established, but he was able to find his way till the Cape of Good Hope by 1488 itself. So even before Columbus wanted to go and reach India, he had been able to find a place or a way to come to Cape of Good Hope and go back. Now, this is a major breakthrough. This is a major breakthrough because that can be a stepping stone. That can be a stepping stone. Cape of Good Hope, Diaz, Cape of Good Hope, Cape of Storms, it was called. Henry the Navigator was the one who changed the name. John II of Portugal and Henry the Navigator will change the name to Cape of Good Hope, which is basically a sign that they will find a route to India. They will find a route to India. Now, 1488, it will be 10 years that in 1498, a person called Vasco da Gama, he will reach Calicut. And the reason why, because he had a Gujarati pilot of his ship named Abdul Majid. Abdul Majid. See, they were clueless how to come to India. But at Cape of Good Hope, Abdul Majid, he was a Gujarati pilot, a captain, who used to trade on this side of the African sector. He was at Cape of Good Hope, and he knew how to reach India via the Arabian Sea. So very simply, the reason why the Europeans were desperate to reach India was commodities. But till 1488, they did not know how to reach till the tip of Africa. And it will take them another 10 years, and specifically Vasco da Gama, to basically open up India. Once he is able to reach Calicut and then go back, now the Europeans had in 1498 had a breakthrough through which India could now be reached via a sea route and not just a land route. So what I've told you in the past 10 to 15 minutes is that 1488 Diaz will reach Diaz or Diaz, whatever you want to say. Basically Portuguese. I know Portuguese language. I had to do it for my MPhil. S and Z. S is actually pronounced as Z. So it's Diaz, not Diaz or Diaz. It's Diaz. So Diaz will reach Cape of Good Hope, named Cape of Storms, but later renamed as Cape of Good Hope. The exact word you can see here, it was called the Cabo de Boa Esperanza. Basically, Cabo means Cape of Boa, Bon, Ben means good, and Esperanza means hope. So the Cape of Good Hope was a major turning point for the Europeans. Thereafter, in 1498, with the help of Abdul Majid, Vasco da Gama will basically open the maritime route to India and basically open India to colonialism. Now I want to discuss with you what is colonialism. But do you understand why they can't come like this and why they needed to go like this? Get it? And who is Vasco da Gama? A Portuguese. Diaz is also a Portuguese. Portuguese King Henry the Navigator, very interested in reaching India, and they were able to do it in the 1488 to 1498 period. And that too, you have to credit an Indian pilot, which is the Gujarati pilot Abdul Majid, who will basically navigate the most difficult section, which is the Arabian Sea and the Indian Ocean. Columbus also goes to, yeah, Columbus was also trying to look for India only. He by mistake finds America. He by mistake. They did not know that there was something called America. I will discuss this with you in world history. It's called in 1492, it's called the discovery of the New World. We'll discuss that, separate issue altogether. So are we all on the same page? Can I discuss what is colonialism and how India is now going to be open to colonialism? And what is the difference between imperialism and colonialism? Yeah, that is why he called them Red Indians, because he thought that Indian to lag rahe, but little bit darker. So he called them Red Indians. So that is the reason why the indigenous population of America was called Red Indians. Okay. Christopher Columbus is also a Portuguese, yes. Funded by the Portuguese and the Spanish government. Now, I said that India was now open to imperialism and colonialism. Now, I need to explain to you what these two terms mean, because this whole story, which is called modern India, is a story of nothing but colonialism. Is a story of nothing but colonialism. That's why it's called the colonial India or colonial modern India. So you need to understand what makes this period called, or why do we call it colonial India? Now there are two words: imperialism and colonialism. Now, which comes first, imperialism or colonialism? Please tell me, which comes first, imperialism or colonialism?
Colonialism, imperialism, 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 colonialism, imperialism, imperialism. Very good. See, this is first stage. Because this is second stage. Now, imperialism is basically called as domination of a foreign territory or nation for concessions or favorable trade or economic rights. Basically, this is called indirect rule. So, very simply, imperialism is that when the country which is dominating you does not want to take over. It doesn't want to take over, it does not want to complicate it too much. The British came as imperialists, the Portuguese came as imperialists, the French came as imperialists. They wanted to trade with India when they were not able to trade properly. So they started to meddle with the internal politics and they tried to make that pro Portuguese, pro English, pro French. And basically, this is called imperialistic impulse, or a sub brand of imperialism is called mercantilism. Mercantilism is nothing but when you try to dominate trade. But a very important term here is indirect rule. They have still not taken over the polity. They still have not taken over the administration. They still have not taken over any other forms of smaller details. But colonialism is when you capture power and fully subjugate the foreign territory, direct rule, social, economic, and political fabric, all are changed. So there can be a nation, for example, like China, which was only imperially dominated. They did not have colonialism. But then you can have a country like India where imperialism started and then colonialism became the norm, which is fully subjugate the area and make it a colony. That is why colonialism. Mother country, and colony. So till Plassey and till maximum Buxar. Yes, in a way, early modern is the period of imperialistic impulse. After Diwani rights are given to the British, they now transition from imperialism to colonialism. So why is 1498 considered such an important year? Because it was Vasco da Gama who basically paved the way for colonialism in India. Please understand this point very clearly. That is why the maritime route was seen as a watershed moment in Indian history. Imperialism and colonialism did not exist in India before 1498. It is only after 1498 that imperialism and colonialism became what it was. So, I hope that imperialism, which is indirect rule, and direct rule is clear to you. So, since the beginning of the class, we have discussed 5 to 6 very important concepts. We've discussed Mughal decline. We've discussed the actors of our story. We've also discussed second the story of what we call as the
weak successors, Mughal Empire paving way for the advent of Europeans. We've discussed why the Europeans needed to find a maritime route, what was blocking the route between India and what we call as the European sector, and what is imperialism and colonialism. Does anybody have any issue in all of this? Imperialism, Sakshi, is nothing but the first stage of colonialism where a country dominates to get some form of concessions. Colonialism is full takeover. I'll give you a very simple example and you will understand it. You would, when you go to the mall, if you've gone to any public place, you would have seen those small battery cars which are there, which children sit in and drive. Have you seen that? Small cars are there in which they sit. Yes. Now, imperialism is that car. Basically, when the child sits in that car, he is doing this, but is the child actually controlling the steering wheel? No. It seems as the child is controlling the car, but you would have seen that there's a person standing behind with a small remote control who basically controls the car. So, very simply, that is imperialism. From the outside, it would seem that you have control, but from the inside, basically someone else, without taking the hassle of basically controlling everything, is just controlling you through remote control, which is getting concessions whatever they want. Colonialism is that when you basically remove that child and give the child rather the control of that remote control, basically direct and indirect. From the outside, colonialism looks like proper control, social fabric changes, economic fabric changes, new institutions are brought in. Imperialism is don't need to fundamentally change it, whatever is happening, let it happen. Right? Okay? Yes, in a way, Brudula, in a way. Yes, in the current scenario, we have new imperialism. A very good example of that is China, debt imperialism, debt trap, which is that what is China doing? Give them so much money that they can't repay and then control their economy. That is called neo-imperialism. Yamya, the basic point is there are two words which I've used. One is imperialism, the other one is colonialism. Imperialism is when the country which wants to dominate you dominates, but it doesn't fundamentally change everything. It just makes you through military might accept your demands. Colonialism is when that country now thinks that I can go a step further and basically change my country to suit them. So imperialism is indirect control. It will seem that the country is free, but it is under domination of someone else. Yes, America superpower imperialism. It's called McDonald's diplomacy. MNCs, Google, Apple, Amazon control everything. So that is also a form of neo-imperialism. We'll discuss this more when we'll discuss it in world history, but imperialism exists till today. Neo-imperialism exists till today. Domination of a country. You tell me, doesn't the US actually control how India trades with the world? Even are we under the rule of the Americans? Are we under the rule of the Americans? No. Then why is that the WTO tells us who to give most favored nation? WTO has a grievance redressal mechanism. WTO tells us that how much subsidy I can give to my farmer. Is it of any purpose of a World Trade Organization to tell amber box, green box, this box, that box, how much subsidy I can give to my farmer? Isn't this controlling the country without not controlling the country? This is what is imperialism. You don't change anything. You just dominate. Has globalization reduced sovereignty of nations? Sure, why not? We never got proper sovereignty. It was based on a certain hegemonic concept of the UN. UN is just a mouthpiece of the British, of the Americans. It's basically a dog of the British. But that is a separate. We'll have this discussion in world history. When I say colonialism, does it now make sense? Does it make sense? Come on. Yamia. Yes, WTO is actually WTO, World Bank, IMF, UN, all are tools of imperialism developed by the US. All are that. All of them. Bretton Woods twins, UN, everything. All of them. Okay. Now, just to now revise with you, because I want to now take the story forward and then we can break for lunch. Diaz found the Cape of Good Hope in 1488, later renamed as Cape of Good Hope because it represented an opening to the east. The reason why the Portuguese, this is Cape of Good Hope, Cape Town, this is the point where he came, and then you have to go via either Madagascar, internal, external, to reach India. And Vasco da Gama was the first European to re-establish direct trade links with India since Roman times, because the Romans knew how to come to India. Because of that, the Chera Chola Pandyas had a lot of Roman trade. But when the Roman Empire declined, nobody knew how to come to India. And he was the first one to circumnavigate Africa in 1498. 3 ships under Vasco da Gama and his Gujarati-led pilot Abdul Majid will reach Calicut. And the reason for doing this is, and you can see everything I've told you is also written in the PPT. So don't have to worry about that. So the closing of the traditional trade route in Western Asia by the Ottoman Empire and the rivalry within the Indian states sent Portuguese in search of an alternative. It is as the Italian states sent the Portuguese for a search an alternative sea route to India. First successful voyage to India was by Vasco da Gama, who arrived in Calicut. And now I have to take that story forward. What happened to Vasco da Gama in India? Can I discuss that part? You see, this is the route which Vasco da Gama actually took. He went via Lisbon, which is in Portugal, reached till Cape of Good Hope. Then you can see how confused even Abdul Majid was when he was going to India. But the bigger confusion is how he's coming back. You see this zigzag line. This is the problem of circumnavigating or going via Africa, which is that because if this the trade routes, what we call as the wind routes change, this will basically make you go off course quite a lot. You don't have to write a diagrammatic overview, though there is no, but you will not have the time to write it in the examination. Prelims examination doesn't really matter. Now, this is basically the route they were using. And why Abdul Majid was very, very successful, because he used to use the monsoon or the monsoonal winds to enter into India. That is one thing which the Europeans were not able to do. They always used to try to enter into India via what we call as retreating monsoon. Retreating monsoon is when the upper air circulation is reverse. It is like this. So if there is an upper air circulation when it is retreating monsoon, can you actually travel from Cape of Good Hope to India? Because there is no steam engine, there is no steam power, these are not mechanized ships. They use winds. So if you will try to do it, you will basically go off course and you will not reach. Only when the upper air circulation is favorable like this, which is basically monsoons. This is what Majid knew, which Vasco da Gama didn't or Diaz didn't. That is the way they were basically able to break through into India. Now Vasco da Gama reached in 1498 Calicut. Calicut was a small port, but a very prosperous port under the kings or the dynasty which are called the Zamorians. Now, basically, Zamorians are not the real ruler. The real ruler is actually Vijayanagara. You would have known about somebody called Krishna Dev Raya. Krishna Dev Raya comes from the Vijayanagara Empire. So right now, Krishna Dev Raya is not ruling. Who is ruling is his precursor. His name was Imadi Narsimha. And basically, the Vijayanagara Empire used to follow a system of dividing the empire amongst their generals. That's called the Nayankara system, which I will again teach you when we'll do ancient medieval. Zamorians were one of these smaller powers which used to control Calicut. Now, Zamorians and India generally, unlike China or unlike Southeast Asia, India was always open. India was always open. We were always open for trade. We were always open to trade. We were never the ones which will basically let you go back. So when Vasco da Gama reached Calicut, he was given a very warm welcome. Very, very warm welcome. He was given as much pepper as he wanted. He bought as much as he wanted. He took 3 ships worth of pepper and he sold it at 10 times higher the cost, which made Vasco da Gama literally at that point of time a millionaire. Now the first interaction is very cozy, but Vasco da Gama was able to notice something, that the Arabs were already in these ports. See, if you look at this map, we already have this whole sector which has access to India. In this map, one second, the whole of the Arabian, what was called the Arabic sector, it had access. They only had to cross over like this. So Calicut was not a new port. Calicut was not a new port. The Arabs actually had already access to these ports and they were very well established. They were very well established. Just one, they use sign language to interact. No. That's not the case. Mostly what used to happen was that you used to take people from Cape of Good Hope or from certain areas along your way who understand both the languages. So it's not sign languages, it's basically trade language everybody understands. But the simple point is Abdul Majid would have played a very important role because Majid would have been interacting with the Portuguese at Cape of Good Hope previously. So over a period of time, they learn their basic terms and terminologies. That is the basic point. So Vasco da Gama saw Arab travelers, but he did not care too much. He was elated that he had found a route to India. Anybody has any issue in understanding how or what is the initial impact? Which is Zamorians are warm, Calicut is the place where he reaches. Vasco da Gama gets a very good sound reception. Nobody really has any problem, but he notices traders who have come from the Arabic world, from what we today call as West Asia. Anybody has any issue in understanding this point? Yes, no, have to say something. No, sir. Okay. Now the next person who comes to India is not Vasco da Gama, but a person called Cabral. His name, Pedro Cabral. Cabral came in 1500 to Calicut. He's again a Portuguese trader. But the interaction of Cabral with the Calicut Zamorians was not very good. Because whilst Vasco da Gama did not say anything, Cabral established a small, very temporary factory. Now, the word factory, which is used at this point of time, is basically warehouse. It's basically a warehouse. Godam, jisko kehte hain, Godam. It's godowns. So he established a small factory, but Cabral was more aggressive than Vasco da Gama. And you see how these Europeans, these bastards are really actually very, very entitled. Vasco da Gama did not say anything to anybody, but Cabral said to the Zamorians, I am a Portuguese, I have come, I have access to Calicut, and I have a small factory now, I have established it here. He said to the Zamorians, stop all trade with the Arabs. You will only trade with me. Which makes no sense. But Cabral basically wanted the Arabs out. So Cabral fought with the Zamorians and the Arab traders. And basically the small factory which Cabral had established was burnt and destroyed by the locals because they now saw the Portuguese as a problem. That, see, for centuries people were trading on our ports. But did anybody say that no one else can trade? This is the entitlement issue which they have. For centuries, people were trading on our ports. But did anybody ever say that no, you cannot trade with anyone else? Never. Never. It is only the Portuguese who said, no, no, no. Cabral said, no one will trade with nobody. I will only trade with the Zamorians. And that is why in some books you will see, incorrectly it will say the first, and you can Google it, you will get it this only, that the first factory of the Portuguese was in Calicut. No. The first factory was not in Calicut, but was in Cochin. And basically, the reason is because this factory was not permanent. Kochi factory was the permanent factory. But Cabral fought. Cabral fought. And now, when in 1501, our unsuspecting friend called Vasco da Gama is going to again come back, he will be met with hostility. He did not know what was actually happening. Cabral, when that small sector was destroyed, was able to travel to Cochin and to Kochi and to Kannanur. These are two sectors. I'll show you where they are. Cochin and Kannanur. And very simply, Kannanur. But very simply, now the access to Calicut was over. And Vasco da Gama could see that. Vasco da Gama could see that. So, in the first 3 years of their interaction itself, the Portuguese actually fought with the locals. How a few foreign people came on board and aggressive with, because they had very strong military might. The point is, Cabral knew that the Portuguese are very strong militarily, which that will happen very soon also. See, what I've discussed with you in the past 5 minutes is 1498, 1500, 1501. First Vasco da Gama, second Vasco da Gama, and this is Cabral. Very warm reception, very bad reception. Reason, Cabral. Cabral fought. Anybody has any issue understanding this much? Anybody has any issue understanding this much? I'll give you a timeline in the end, master timeline. But this is basically the discussion we've had till this point. Now, because Calicut was out of their hands now, it is in the period of 1503 that the first factory of the Portuguese will be established at Cochin. What do I mean by this? First factory, permanent factory. Please do not fall in the trap of random Googleable material that it is Calicut. It is only Calicut first interaction, not first factory. Non-permanent factory Calicut, then Kochi. Yes, that would be the right way to say it. Thereafter, by 1505, they had also established a factory at Kannanur. Just for your sake of understanding, I'll show it to you on the map once. Give me 1 second. Yes. This is Calicut. This is Kannanur. And this is Kochi. So you can see they move north and south of Calicut. This moves north and south of Calicut. First factory will be Kochi. Second factory will be Kannanur. First factory Kochi. Second factory Kannanur. And thereafter, when I come back from lunch, I want to discuss the most important colony of the Portuguese, which is Goa. But before we do that, let me summarize everything what we've done till this point. Who controlled Kochi Kannur? These are again smaller rulers which used to report to the Vijayanagara Empire. Now, since the morning, we've understood syllabus, books,
Mughal decline, got to know who I am, weak successors. We discussed Advent, and we've discussed in that Diaz, Calicut, Vasco, and what we call as Cabral. In all of this, we've discussed why route was needed and what was the need for it. Should I have a doubt? Should we read history of modern day or spectrum? Janvi, spectrum is better. It's more comprehensive, but Bipin Chandra's old NCRT, so you have to read NCRT. But if you want to choose, then spectrum. Now, does anybody have any issue here? Anybody have any issue here? Because then we break for 1 to 2 p.m. as lunch. We come back at 2 to 5 is going to be our second session. Anybody has any issue here? We have to take the story of the Portuguese forward after this. Okay. Now, when I come back at 1, when I come back at 2, yes, Ankit, it is. You can buy it if you want to. It is oriented towards UPSC. You will feel as soon as you will read it, you will understand that also. Second, established, it is 15. See, the dates is 1498, 1500, 1501, 1503, 1505. I'll give you a trick to learn that also. Very simply, straightforward. What I want you to understand is the Portuguese story is still left. I'll complete it. Then we'll go to the Dutch, then to the Dutch English, then the Danes and the French. That is what is the agenda for today, which is bringing in all these European powers into the picture. Can we break for lunch? And can we come back at 2 p.m. with that? First, it is already at a very discounted price on Amazon. How can I provide a specific offer for the book? The seller will do it, not me. And as it is a 600 rupees book, 700 rupees book at 490. But I'm not forced. It's totally your call. Specific offer, I don't know Diwali offer from me. Okay. Can't the Europeans learn the roots from the Arab? But how do they interact? And do you think that an Arab will tell a European? Okay. So I will see you at 2. Have a good lunch. Try to consolidate all of this. I will revise when I come back and take the story forward. See you and take care. Join from part B, not part A. Part A is over. This much part of the annotated PPT will be generated after 1 to 2 hours. And this part B we will take forward. 3 PPTs will be generated in the same day. And all 3 will have separate each places where I've written something. In this part of the PPT, first 68 pages, 68 slides I've used. In the next one, the next 68 or 100. That way, for the people who are totally new to this. Chronological order of European entry is Portuguese, Dutch, English, Danes, French, which I will discuss with you also when we'll discuss Europe. Okay, see you.